Sarah, I'm back on my laptop now. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you fine. Thanks, Mike. Can you hear us, Mike?
Hear you perfectly.
Good. Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Common Community Board. Lovely to have a lovely full public forum. We know that there's some big decisions that people hear what we're going to be making those of in today's meeting. So welcome to everybody, welcome to the media, and welcome to all the members of staff who are present, and also welcome to those who may be joining us online. We open with a karakia, kia ora, te marano, kia whakapapa, tau namu, te roto rā, hei huarahi, mā tātou i te rangi nei, araha atu, araha mai, tātou i a tātou katoa, hui, taiki. Let peace be widespread and the lake beyond be calm and sparkling like greenstone waters, love reciprocated for all us all and together in unity. We have no apologies today. Mike is joining us on Teams, so you may hear a disembodied voice coming at you, and that will be Mike making his contribution today. So he is here, he just is in Wellington talking about the energy crisis. Lucky him. We open today's meeting with a public forum, and I'd like to welcome Alex from the Central Otago Public Club to come and speak with us. If you'd like to come up to the front, your supporters are welcome to come and sit with you if you wish them to be with you as well. They don't look like they're brave enough. That's how it works for us.
Obviously, Alex, you present up there as well, so just however you want to put through.
Yeah, thank you for that. So my name's Alex, and I'm here on behalf of the Central Otago Motorcycle Club. We're an incorporated society since 1985, and we have currently had a track off Bankburn Road for 26 years now. So we feel like we've established ourselves in the community quite well. We have an overview. Move to the next screen. It's our current facility, which is earmarked for industrial development, which we've known about losing the site. We've been on the 6-month lease for about 6 years now. So it's provided a fair bit of insecurity for us to spend money and invest in facilities. So it's all coming to a head now, and we would like to propose a new facility. So something that we can sink our teeth into. We've got a lot of community backing, some really good people in the club, so we'd like to increase our offering and to make a better facility for people, really. So the next screen will show you the site that we're proposing. And what we like about this site is it's right next to Islands and Speedway. Both we have letters of endorsement, and we'd like to have us alongside them. Couple of conditions along the approval of that is that we all work together and share a calendar, so that we're not creating motorsport events that are all day and all night for the local residents. But in total, we're looking at moving our facility about 800 metres, so we don't feel like our impact is going to change greatly at all. If not, just strengthen the motorsport offerings that we have along Sandpit Road currently. So we're currently consented for up to 10 major events annually. We estimate we wouldn't exceed 6. So we're already managing dust, noise, as well as we've got opening hours. So none of that would change. We're not looking to ask for more or any change to our conditions. We just simply want to relocate. One thing that we find really strengthens our position is our event season actually runs opposite to Highlands and Speedway. So it means that we're not all clashing for the same weekends in accommodation and noise. We feel like we strengthen the area over the winter months when accommodation is less and easier to get. And we estimate we have about 540 accommodation lots that we bring to the area. And based on our survey, we estimate every rider that comes to town or uses the facility from town touches about 3 to 5 businesses, feeding on the company. It's food, seems to be a lot of food and a lot of fuel that gets used from all the people. So, and speaking of local businesses too, they were all for us. I've been promised a lot of letters of recommendation in the last week that they would all like to see us continue because it's a real flow-on effect for the community. So, yeah, other key facts are we're a training ground for the female world champion, 4-time Courtney Duncan. She spent her off-season here, and not only did she train here, but she also trains local women and local kids. So we're really lucky with that, and it's an integral part to her training season, really. So we're really lucky with that, and having that access to a controlled and sanctioned environment for recreational riders is massive. It means that we don't have any issues with walking tracks or e-bikes running rampant around the place and causing damage to all the council-funded areas that we do have, because it gives everyone the outlet. So, yeah, we've got club membership, which is strong. It's hard to put it in total numbers because we have a lot of family passes, but it's sort of between 300 to 400 people that use the facility in the local area every year. Plus, we have a lot of day difference from town and outside. We find Cromwell a really good central area because we draw people from Queenstown, Wanaka, Alexandria, all areas, and it all comes to Cromwell. People spend money there, and then they continue on. So, yeah, we've already been in discussion, obviously, to manage the calendars, so that's all easy. I've got letters of support from Courtney Duncan, 4-time world champion. Peter Broxon, who is a national rider who provides coaching here every year, multiple times a year to teach the basics all the way up to national level competitors at our track. And then, yeah, we've got a letter from the Speedway and Highlands endorsing us. So, yeah, I could rattle on all day about how important we are to you guys as a community, but I'm sure you guys will have some questions. So,
Questions, people. That seems to be a very popular triangle land at the moment.
Are you prepared to take the dog walkers on?
I didn't come here to argue for my argument should have left. But I mean, the triangle itself, we have chosen because it's close to the motorsport. We do know motorsport and animals aren't investments, but we just want a parcel of land. It doesn't need to be the exact triangle in that area. We're just hoping that with the minimal distance it is to relocate us, it provides a viable solution for the club to actually just establish our track and keep all the dirt we've got and build it. We feel like it's a motorsport hub for Cromwell, which is becoming a real attractive thing for the area. Yeah.
Mike has a question. Mike.
Yeah, well, thanks, Alice. That was yeah, awesome, well thought through presentation. So thank you for that. Just following on from Sarah's comment or question on the dog walkers. Realistically, do you see much of a possibility of sharing that land with them? Like if you put your mind to it, is there a way that we could figure out? I mean, we've got a race course now sharing their land with people who love to operate heavy machinery potentially on the cards. So is there any option there where something could be integrated in for the dog walkers with some shade and some water that could actually work harmoniously outside of your consented events that you run every year?
Absolutely. You can see that we haven't asked for an excessive amount of land in the trees here. And one thing that would benefit us is the existing trees that we haven't asked for the area. If there was a period of those left that provided shelter, an off-leash walking area, it will also aid us with dust suppression and noise, which then protects the health. So we currently have a lot of dog walkers that walk the perimeter of our area at the moment in the Shakes Fields Reserve. It works harmoniously, really easy.
That is an off-leash dog walking area on that side of the, as well, yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing people from out and down here every day, that we're there and they run dogs and things like that. So we've got no opposition to sharing that space. And
What about inside the triangle there? Like, is there any options for harmonious integration? And I just want to know I don't actually know the answer to this. I'm not really a dog walker or a motorcycle enthusiast. So from that perspective, is it just that, no, that's not going to work, or it could work, or what are your thoughts there?
It would be difficult to have it work because it would mean that it would have to be managed. We need a secure perimeter, so they would need access to unlock and lock. I'm not saying there's no possible way, but it would become a lot harder for the dog walkers to access the area rather than drive up, jump out and walk their dog. We can't really have a facility that's maintained and charges users if we don't have secure premises.
Cool.
So,
Thank you. And then one final question is your thought on electric motorcycle bikes?
They are coming and they're coming fast. It's not something to complain about because it will obviously help noise. But it's definitely a thing. A lot of cities around the world are having issues with e-bikes and e-motorbikes that run rampant. So obviously it's a great thing to have an outlet for them to use an area. So because e-bikes are definitely coming. If not here already.
So that was the right answer for me, Alex. Well done.
Any further?
Yeah, you mentioned about 6 major events a year. Would there be someone on the track generally most days, or what's the usage generally?
So I'd say weekly, definitely. We put a survey out to a lot of our members, and everyone says weekly. It would be probably not daily in terms of noise, but I would like to say most weekends we would have some form of noise coming from that facility.
Yeah, because I think if you're thinking about the effects on the residential environment around the track, I think probably 2 motorbikes every single day would be pretty annoying. I think you could take a big deep breath and deal with 6 events a year, but yeah, I think it's something to consider, like how often the track is used.
Just on that though, we are 800 metres down the road for 26 years without issues. So I feel like our impact doesn't change all that much in that regard. In fact, we're going to strengthen if we were to be given a premises we could spend money on with planting, irrigation. We would have less dust, less noise.
And have you looked into leasing private land at all? Because I mean, council's one of the main landowners in the district.
Yeah, we have struggled in the past to gain much land, and we've had a really good relationship with the council for our time here. So we'd like to continue that route.
Yes.
Great, thank you. A really good presentation, and certainly something for us to put into our thinking about what the future land use in that space might look like, and the idea of that sort of motorsport area where we've got the 3 types of motorsport happening in close proximity to one another. Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate your time. That takes us on to the confirmation of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a mover and seconder for those, please?
Yep.
Thank you. That was already asked. Rebecca, all in favour? Then a reminder about declarations of interest and the importance of standing aside from any decisions where there is a perceived or actual conflict of interest. And that then moves us on to page 17 of your agenda and the new Cromwell facility name. Yeah.
Aye.
The report is great. Just a highly for the purpose of the report today is to consider some of the feedback from the community regarding the English name for the facility by the lake, and to discuss and agree a name to recommend to council for a decision at the end of April. Paul is joining me here today just to cover off a couple of high-level points from the data that we've seen to help this year.
Yeah, so the survey, as you know, was quite straightforward. There were 3 questions. We had, the first question was people who wanted to just put their name in for what they'd already had in their head, what they thought the name would be a good suggestion. The second was to give a structure, people with mulling other ideas, and the third was to provide comments. We had a total of 611 responses, which we were rapt with, and so thank you all elected members who really visibly went out and campaigned and has got good voice out to people, so really appreciate that. It's interesting looking at the feedback on the different options. So option 1, we had 478 responses, and option 2, we had 523. So that shows that people are filling in both options. That's fine, because the purpose was to give a guide of the diversity of names and the thinking that people were having. We had over 200 different names suggested in that first option, and you'll see on the graph on the report that the different choices that people had for that second piece. From the data, we know that there was a strong Cromwell support to filling in the survey, like 82% Cromwell, and 43% of the respondents were above 61 and above. But other than that, we know that it was anonymous, people put their ideas in, and it was just an opportunity to gather people's thoughts and to the page.
Thank you so much. Righty-ho, I'd like to up to community board members. Are there any questions that you have for Jen and Paula, or where shall we start this discussion? Thank you both. I know that it's been a process of thinking about how this would be framed so that we got open feedback as well as some structured feedback. I think that we've managed to get that. There's a lot of different things in here, but some really clear themes that have come to us, and a really comprehensive report. So thank you so much for that.
Well, from my perspective, I think the results have been pretty clear. So the people have spoken, they see Cromwell over Central Otago Memorial and the word events come out high and centre. So there's 4 ingredients right there. I think the only thing I'd say on top of that is if Cromwell Memorial Event Centre was to go ahead, I'd probably steer away from Cromwell Memorial and Event Centre. Because it wants to, I don't know, a memorial as an object or something. Yeah, so I think the wider facility is the memorial in that context.
I support what's just said. I appreciate the work done by the team here, and maybe getting them and getting inputs. And I feel, yeah, we need to be listening to what has been presented and from a memorial events. It stands out to me. Yes.
Mike?
Kia ora. Yeah, I think I very much agree with both Wally and Rebecca on that one, that there are 4 key words. That is Cromwell, that is memorial, that is events, and that is centre, that have clearly bubbled to the surface. My only bit that I would add in here is that after the article that Kim Bowden put out in the Central app regarding that being a description of the function of the building, and not necessarily the name of the building. I'm still very in favour of potentially having a look in the first list for potential names. So something, and then Cromwell Memorial Event Centre, I think would be really good. Obviously, there was the suggestions of things like the Auric and the Junction. I think the Junction might have been mentioned 12 times out of all the ones that were specifically a name rather than describing a function. So the only thing that I would add to that, and I'm not going to die on a hill for this, would be maybe if we were to call it the Junction Cromwell Memorial Event Centre, sorry, if we're going to drop the and Wally. But that being said, I would happily also forego that, because to be honest, our town has been tearing itself to shreds over this, and I think we need to move on. So I think the survey has really spoken what the community wants, and I'm in line with wanting to to respect that and move forward.
Thank you, Sarah.
I think one thing we're not looking at is what isn't there, and what isn't there is an influx of feedback from people outside of Cromwell. But the opportunity was there for that. So the inference of that to me is that people aren't too worried. But Cromwell has come through as the most important for the location, and that's because there was an overwhelming majority of Cromwell people that filled in the survey, but it was open to other people, and as a percentage across all wards. Digitisation is important because everybody will be contributing, everybody will be using it, but it's Cromwell's building in that respect. And I think it, in my mind, it justifies going with Cromwell, not Central Otago in that respect for the rest of the wards, to a degree that they have had the opportunity to stay and nobody's too concerned that it localises it too much. So a degree of comfort in that. However, knowing that it is a council decision from here, that is probably the most significant thing to be considered at the council table as to whether our thinking here. It's very easy to be egocentric and say it's Cromwell's Hall and we're going to call it the Cromwell Hall, and everybody here that responded is going to say the same. We just need to bear that in mind, that council conversation could be at a slightly different level probably. But I do think that what we've seen in the data is that Cromwell is supported by others as well to a reasonable degree there. I'm actually really surprised that Hub and Complex were so poorly supported. I thought they were a bit more new generation description for a centre, like a community centre or memorial centre. That's the demographic of the respondents maybe, but that surprised me a bit. But again, that's why we ask the questions. I don't think there's anything outlandish in there that Paulie McCallface didn't make a showing, so it's good we're not discussing that. I think, like Wally, Rebecca and Mike have said before, we asked the question for a reason. We've asked the question whether people believe us or not. We asked the question because we wanted the feedback to be informed of what the community wanted, and hand on heart, we're here to do what the people that have taken some time out this afternoon to come and listen to us make the decision. Like, we're not making a decision that what we want, we are listening. And we're comfortable that that is telling us what we've heard from you, but not just some of those people. And I think we can make a decision based on that reflects what the building is, what it's going to do. A dual name, we will know in time as to whether that works as a label, as an extra, as a side by side. I think that's the next step. But at this stage, let's be honest, most people in the town are going to call it Cromwell Memorial Hall anyway. So Cromwell Memorial Event Centre sounds, stick a label on it for what it is, eh?
Okay, so I'm hearing around the table, and again, the comprehensive report really helps us to make these decisions. Cromwell Memorial Events Centre, drop the and, so that it doesn't feel like it's two separate things. It is a thing, Cromwell Memorial Events Centre. The thinking, Mike, I think that I've had quite a lot of that thinking as well around some of that out of the box thinking we got from the survey, that people came with the Auric or the Junction or the Confluence or one of those types of names as a name, And then the Cromwell Memorial Events Centre sitting as a byline, if you like, that explains where it is and what it does. But I'm not hearing that others around this table are looking at that option at this point. No. Okay, are we ready then to go to the recommendations, which are on page 17?
We should drag it out for at least another 10 minutes. shouldn't we?
Well, you don't know because you don't know until you've got the feedback in front of you how comprehensive it is. So, yeah. So the
And I just think it's just important, I think, that we acknowledge that there was hundreds of people that filled out that first text box, and we know obviously that we're kind of not counting that in this process, right? Because we've immediately gone to what the discrete part 2 of the survey has done, which is, I think, clearly identify what people are wanting in our community. But we are also dismissing all of the ideas for out of the box names that came in that section.
Although the top one of those in that section is Cromwell Memorial Events Centre.
Correct.
So even there, I mean, Cromwell Memorial Centre, Central Otago Events Centre, Cromwell Memorial Hall, Cromwell Events Centre, Cromwell Memorial Hall and Events Centre. So the theme that we've gone with.
Yeah, actually, no, you're right. No, I agree.
Everything in double digits in that list
Yeah.
is some permutation of what we are
we just said. Yeah.
talking about here. So none of them, if we said actually it's this, they are all similar enough to that.
And they've all used centre, apart from one
Well,
that's
yeah.
used full.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really interesting. So back to page 17, are we comfortable that we're ready to make this recommendation? So the recommendation asks us to recommend a name to the council for the English name of the new facility in Cromwell. We do need to keep in mind that we are sending through something that's very Cromwell centric, and when it's looked at from a district level in the next iteration, that that there may be conversations from people around the council table that they want to look at it being a Central Otago name. Having said that, not sure that they would overturn a decision that's made here, but they may. But we just need to be aware of that. We need to be aware that the conversation will be different. We can't predict what will be said there. They'll have the same feedback from the community that we've had in front of them. So we recommend to council that the name for the new facility in Cromwell be the Cromwell Memorial Events Centre. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Who's it going to be? Everybody, all in favour? Carried. Great work, team. Thanks so much. Still on our new facility on the Cromwell Memorial Events Centre. Well, welcome to talk about fees and charges.
So fees and charges. Purpose of this report is to consider the fees and charges for the new Cromwell facility. And the recommendations that the Cromwell Community Board receives the report and accepts the level of significance, recommends to council that the attached fees and charges be accepted for the first year of operation, and notes that this is not an exhaustive list and directs staff to continue to develop fees and charges as the operation of the venue evolves.
Okay.
Might just add a really good to that as well. If that's what.
All right, go for it.
We had a public workshop last meeting as well, just reviewing some of the commercial rates, and that's really what this focused on, the community rates. And council will be resolved to be part of the 1 July fees and charges from this year.
Questions, comments, thinking?
I think it's probably the 3rd or 4th time this has come up in either meetings or workshops, and each time the intelligence is built into the pricing structure. Obviously with the old facility, there's probably 2 rates you could come up with, but there's a bit more to it with this one, so you could work on getting to this matrix that's now in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, the very first time we looked at any sort of matrix of running costs and charges, and it was so complex, we couldn't make five on here of it. So it's great that we've got something in front of us that is clear and easy to read. So thank you so much for your work on that.
I think it's important to have that 1 year in there, though. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. So that 1 year, in a year's time, we'll have a good idea of both what we're looking forward to and what we've completed. And we may find this is, I would say, if anything, still under. So this is it's almost it's a soft opening price schedule, if you like. And I think we need to not be afraid to put that up. And if in 12 months' time we realise we are undercharging, I still think we are very favourably comparable to other similar venues, and we need to be mindful of that. Keeping it community affordable is 100% our objective, but making that money where we can and not being afraid to do that in 12 months' time when we've got that data behind us. So, yeah, for 12 months, great, but 12 months' time might be quite different.
And of course, we can now announce that the facility will be having its formal opening on July the 17th. And that over the month of July, there will be events that will include our community and to go and do and see in that space, which is a bit exciting.
Jen and Will, probably this was before I think you were on board, Will, but one of my first meetings, I sort of challenged Jen to come up with some figures here, and I just wanted to say well done. I think they look like figures that, especially at the commercial hire rate, that are, could actually help us to break even. Just a quick question: have you guys done any analysis on what the utilization rate would be required with these fees to kind of break even on this? I mean, I think 3,500 for a full day hire sounds very reasonable and was probably comparable to other areas, but I was just wondering what targets we need to kind of hit to make sure that this is revenue or rates payer neutral.
That's a really good question. I mean, we could project till the cows comes home pretty much. I think why we want that first year of operation is to really see how much community use there is versus how much corporate use, and how we can strike that balance between trying to break even, but also serving the needs of the community. And to be honest with you, Mike, in my experience, you can project all the way, but you really don't know until you're actually there and you've got the doors open and you see the level of interest from around the region, from around the country, and from the community as well.
And I think the back part of that question, Mike, is in the earlier days that Madam Chair talked about a year ago, we talked about the annual running costs of this facility, and we're operating on about 1.5 million a year to run it. That doesn't include the depreciation approach, but if you go 1.5 million divided by 360 days that we're open for, it's about 4,000 a day to run it. So kind of if we work off our fees and charges.
100% utilisation and a lot of bump in fees, and pretty much there. Yeah.
So just to give a rough sort of.
That doesn't take into account what we're going to be taking in from leases and
revenue. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, in our first, we're obviously like leases. We've already got some bookings and things like that. So the more we make this thing a success together as a community, the less it'll be on the way.
Does council staff have, I mean, yes, first year, I totally get it. I understand it. It's exploration phase. We also don't have a hotel to service it and all of those kinds of things. So there's lots of caveats to this and lots of nuance, right? But do we have an idea of how utilised we want it to be? How much the ratepayers are covering the operational costs versus the fees? Is there like some sort of goal in mind? I know Peter probably doesn't want to spend much on operational costs if he can avoid it. So yeah, just wondering if you guys have got a figure there.
I go back to my time in Upper Hutt, where we had a similar facility with a very similar offering. Their revenue, and this was 20 years maturity, was probably $700,000 a year annually. The running cost was probably about $2 million. So even in a mature facility that had a hall that was being utilised in 80% ratio, it was still tough to come close to breaking even.
Cool. No, that's really good to know. It would just be good to have some sort of understanding, maybe, and we can park this for maybe a year to figure out what we're wanting to achieve there. But yeah, I've never run a facility like this before, so I don't know what's realistic. But I think having some sort of goal that we can talk to ratepayers about would be important in the long run.
I think as well, Mike, this board, which council resolved as well, wanted 6 monthly performance reviews. So team and I will be delivering that here every 6 months, and then
it's a bit rough on Will. He's only just started.
Yeah. And then a full review in 2 years' time. So I'd imagine you're going to hold me accountable for that one.
We will, yeah. Very much. Very
Don't
much.
worry, Will.
Yeah.
We've got each other.
I'm quite happy to move forward with you.
Got 2 minutes. Great. So back to page 76 and the recommendations that we have in front of us, which are that we received the report. Recommend to council that the attached fees and charges be accepted for the first year of operation, and C notes that this is not an exhaustive list and directs staff to continue to develop fees and charges as the operation of the venue evolve. And you will note that there are some blank rows in there where there's things like furniture costs and equipment costs that haven't been factored in yet. So do I have a motion and seconder for those, please?
Can I move this one since
Yes,
I
you may,
really
Mike.
like it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Seconder. Thanks, Rebecca. All in favour?
Thanks.
Okay. Next we are on to page 83 and the gear as used free. Yes, you can have some. Well, gentlemen.
Thank you. I've had a report that's read, 40, I've seen his apologies and not being available on leave today, but we do have David. There's an upset on, so thank you, David. So there has been a couple of previous board decisions, around the gear entries, one of those being in December 2018, which the board resolved to remove selected problematic trees. A small number of trees were removed, at that time that were causing damage to structure, water supply, everything like that. And then in August 2025, the board resolved to consult with the community in line with the tree policy on the potential for removal of the remaining areas. Since then, we've undertaken some work to understand the cost of actually retaining those trees should consultation occur. We wanted to make sure the board was fully aware of the full financial implications of keeping the trees before making a decision around consultation. So that's what this report does. It talks to the fact that retaining the trees with proper root management could be up to $535,000, again, with ongoing uncertainty around the costs effectiveness, the long-term effectiveness of that. For context, our footpath program, maintenance program across the 3-year long-term plan period, we applied for $1.5 million of subsidised funding from NZTA and received $500,000. So that would eat up all of the footpath funding over the 3-year period, as opposed to removal and replanting with a more appropriate species to get the full life of footpath. So staff, as we consider it appropriate to present forward with relevant information, so I can consider whether to recommend the removal of these trees to council without consultation, as provided for under the tree policy, where there is some structure damage, safety risk, and financial constraints. So I'll pass back for any questions.
See a question on your face.
I'm all for not consulting on this one, because if we did consult it and people wanted the trees, then I'd go with that consultation. So
Certainly the people who lived on Gear are ones who have been asking for action on these trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, the argument is the trip has in the safety estimate for flights to Melbourne as well, turning out not cheap places now very, very temporary.
the question I had was, if you're ripping out the trees and stump grinding and ripping out the footpath, probably do a whole new footpath down here, right?
Essentially.
Yeah.
Or definitely there's large sections well, yeah.
There's 375 AC water main under there, which sounds like an absolute liability. Would now not be a good time to work in with the waters team on putting a PE pipe under what will be the new footpath, away from where the trees would be planted, because we put new trees there, trees ideally are forever. The AC water pipe is not forever.
Yes,
So now's a good time, because you could lay it beside it, tie it to each end, and the disruption would be really good.
It's conversation being had, but what we will.
So is there a plan to do some sort of replanting?
So there is currently no budgeted replanting for this. So I did actually draft an additional recommendation in the around. So it would have to go into the long-term plan. So there is, well, there's not, the report talks to there being very much available to fund the removal of the trees next financial year. That is using existing footpath funding and directing it towards this, given the importance of fixing the footpath on this location being one of the worst areas of footpath damage. There is no budget with the parks for you to come in and do the replanting, which would have to be an LTP consideration. So an additional recommendation could be direct out area planting plan and estimate for inclusion in the 27-30 long-term plan.
Yeah.
It would be, I mean, noting the importance of replanting if the board considers it appropriate. Not the importance.
I think we need to know what a plan to do that would look like.
Yeah.
So that we can, that decision's made from an informed perspective and we don't just lose those trees and then have no plan in place or no thinking about what might come next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased you noted that because I suspect you're all aware that nothing gets people rolled up like trees. And especially beautiful large trees that provide shade and amenity value and look lovely. And I think we've come to the realisation as Cromwell has grown that trees and footpaths do not go hand in hand. And we need to think about what do we want our towns and our streetscapes to look like if not trees, because there is an option for not trees. But I think people, especially in that area, it is such a beautiful street to drive down and to wander along, so long as you're partially paying attention to where your feet go.
Scooter.
But that's, our community are going to feel very strongly about those trees from both directions. And I think probably that is one that we're going to need a plan in advance on, or maybe to say, hey, actually, that's $500,000 well spent. We want to keep those trees, whatever. At some point, we're going to have to talk about what does it mean to keep a tree and not cutting it down is always the easiest option.
I think that is by far the best way to go, is to come to the community, whether the trees need to go or we need to spend 500 grand more on rates over the next 5 years or something. It's just a really easy way to do this. I think potentially the mistake with Sandflat Road was saying that it was more economical, but having no figures to really necessarily back that up yet. So yeah, I'm also in favour of that. I think the more information we can provide as elected officials back to our community members on the trade-offs, because every decision we make in our community has trade-offs. But the problem is when we can't quantify them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have had reports on in the past, however, is the damage to the footpath, and now there's damage to private properties and the road that's coming from these trees because of the way that they were planted. So are we comfortable with the alternate recommendations? Let's go back to those. The additional one is D, direct staff to prepare a planting plan and estimate for inclusion in the 27-37 long-term plan. Should that be a replanting plan?
Yeah, and sorry, just reflecting on the board's comments is prior to removal, that the board approve a replanting plan. Yeah.
Yes.
Just so that's covered prior to those trees being removed.
So it's solely area, you're not going to encompass the ones that go off area, the same trees.
So
That's next month's way.
you
You like to drag it out.
It's all on the challenge. Yeah.
As much as I hate to see them cut down, but it's not long footpaths and curving is not long being repeated as well. And you're going to have the same issue with those trees, they're the same trees.
Correct. And I actually had that thought when driving back past those going, right, this report covers gear. There are a small number coming this way from the roundabout of those London batteries, which are going to continue causing issues along that section as well. However, the report was already in when I had that forethought, so that was a mislead.
Do we have scope to extend it at this point? I don't have a problem with it.
With extending it.
You go around the corner.
Same issue, it's
Is
just different
it-
street. Same issue, same
It's not the
streets.
whole street, is
It's
it?
not the whole street, it's the
area that's
Rainbow End.
Yeah.
Towards the coast, that's it. Really just.
Probably the bigger issues be actually nothing on enough rate budget to probably do year end.
Okay,
Set up the period.
yeah,
But if we agree to it, pending money at some other stage, then at least we still agreed to it.
Yeah.
Don't have to do this process here.
So what requests do you want staff to just look further?
yes, please. Staff to carry out a planting plan, so does it need to be a direct staff to?
Review the,
Otherwise, we waste time and money writing the same report and changing it.
Yeah,
it's the best
And the work,
status of
We were just saying to something, what's, the recommendation C, yeah, Cromwell, not part of the. Sorry. Recommend the removal of additional trees on, London plane trees on barrier as necessary.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I get to college, still really see in front of me.
It's just shy there, isn't it? It doesn't go quite that far yet.
it's probably just up, to Monument.
Yeah.
And just the work involved closing, I'm just saying.
I think that might need to be fixed,
Then you just.
which is what we're doing in A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just add Gear Avenue and Berry Avenue since you've put approximately 70. What's 70?
Gear Avenue and
If it's plus or minus 10%, surely that's.
And if we don't have budget to complete this, we should be good.
Yeah. Okay.
Stage.
I have to ask about pricing that's included in here. If you can find someone to cut down trees and grind stumps for less than 70 grand, you'd take it, eh?
Oh, here we go. Oh, mate, that was out in the roundabout. It's going to be out there. No. We are not.
Every club.
okay, so we don't need losing any.
That's fine,
Yeah.
Yeah, my experience of country, well, that's much trees cost to remove stump grind, so you'd definitely be fairly more than one price obtained.
Yeah.
Cool, so we are. Yeah, cool, and E, and we don't need E because you've included Berry Avenue and C.
Yeah.
Comfortable with that?
I've just said the, restricted just to the long term plan. Do you want to just at the end of long term plan for other funding options?
Yeah.
Come back to the board.
Yeah. And just in case there's a whole heap of roading funding coming your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do that, but.
Yeah.
Okay. A, receives the report, accepts the level of significance, recommend to council that resolution 25.5.5 approved at the 5th of August 2025 Cromwell Community Board meeting regarding Gear Avenue trees is revoked in its entirety. C, recommend to council the removal of approximately 70 plane trees from Gear Avenue and Berry Avenue from and repair the footpaths as part of the 26-27 roading annual plan budget. Direct staff to prepare a planting plan prior to removal and an estimated cost for inclusion in the 27-37 long-term plan or other funding options. Everybody see that? Okay. Yeah, Sarah. Wally, all in favour, carried.
Are there any outstanding like claims and such? But I know there's been a couple of people on Gear Up that have come to council about damage to their property or the crossing and from the trees, and it's kind of been pushed back a little bit and said, "Oh no, it's your." Are we accepting here that those roads are causing damage? That have we got remediation work to do here with residents along there as well?
Yeah, I don't have too much of that to hand, but I do know that a lot of residents in that street would be pleased with this recommendation.
Yeah, I know of two that have contacted me over the last year or two and said that they believe the damage to their properties from those trees, and we haven't accepted that, I guess. But we kind of are now. We're not. Yeah.
We're seeking, working through what parks around trees for damage and us doing something, road doing something about it. I think wherever it's going from one property to another property, it is responsibility of the property. They can cut those routes back. So it's where it's potentially successful, but probably will be very nice after replacement.
Yeah, it would be really good for those property owners, I think, as a goodwill, if nothing else, to be in touch in advance and say, hey, look, you know, this is the situation and we appreciate that it's crossed your boundary line, but it's our tree. But if there's any opportunity to work together, like there's some that have got driveways that are left, and you know, at that point, if we've got somebody going and relaying asphalt to their boundary, going another 6 inches and filling in a little bit and doing some work, especially some of the elderly that are along there. I know there's one in particular I can think of that, yeah, it would be good for us to go that little extra, or at the very least to think about that when we're doing this as a whole.
Cool. Yeah, take that. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. And that takes us to page 93 and the Cromwell Town Centre. Yeah, same. All happening to that.
Afternoon, I want to present on the big today. I think the paper is read, and this is to consider progressing the town centre project by proceeding with some high-level concept designs and investigation with the Northwest Precinct with the inclusion of civic facilities. So there's quite a bit going on here. We did do a workshop, everyone was privy to that. And this is basically just formalising the same facts that were going into the workshop. So I'll take any questions.
Molly.
Yep. If we're referring back to that workshop, there's plans that have been copy and pasted into there from all sorts of points in time, with all sorts of boundaries around certain areas. I just think if we rubber stamp that report and say box on, go do your good work, the scope is like all over the place. You come back to us with anything that would be in line with what's in that report. I just think fundamentally, though, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I think the scope for the town centre should not be around the current mall as we know it, with a little extension to the Northwest Precinct. I think it should be at least to Barry Ave and Waitangi Drive, if not to the pool, and then it should include placemakers and Hyundai Place, and some area of the Big Fruit Reserve. I just think the scope needs to be big enough to accommodate a town centre that's going to exist in 30 and 40 years' time. And ring-fencing the current mall and working with the current mall is way too small thinking, I think. Because there's certainly pictures to that effect in this report.
Part of the problem in the past was that perhaps the scope got away on us and it got too big. And so the risk is, and you could extend the periphery of the project, but that landscape you've just described is incredibly vast. And so that might come into play in 20, 30 years' time. But to allow the thinking to be further refined, we run the risk that we just have such a big area that, like say, more ideas will come out than less ideas. And at the moment, we're trying to focus on a particular quadrant.
And that is a great stage one to start.
Yeah.
So if you include the bigger area, so it's purple patch, that's 5 to 10 years, green patch is 10 to 15. That's all you got to do to allow for, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And what you're proposing is a stage one. I just don't think stage one is enough as a last at this point.
So we've definitely defined the Northwest Precinct area. We've definitely defined the Big Fruit Reserve, and that was the direction you got out of council, was to focus on those two areas, and they are well defined. This next stage is, and you'll see part of the recommendation is, one of it is realigning the road of Motor into Isle Street. It's almost a catalyst project, almost a Kickstarter that gets focusing on that area. And then by doing some, because Peter's actually 100% right, the scope went too broad and we sort of lost focus. So laser guided missile without the laser, right? And if we go away and we focus on the Northwest Precinct and the big food reserve, and we do some high level concepts, that'll align the focus. From there, because we're not spending any capital, this is just about investigation stage. From there, you'll be able to broaden your horizons to say, well, then let's mark that out in a staged event. What is stage 1 through to stage 10 going to look like? Because this infrastructure project is definitely a 30-year project. So this can go, and depending on how much money or capital investment, is how quickly it can be fast-tracked, right? But if we had to look at it, this is ratepayers' money going into this equation. We're looking at an event that's going to take to make this equation work. So I think all we're talking about today is high-level concepts that are more streamlined and focused to specific areas. And then from there, we do a takeaway on what the actual program looks like.
I suppose, looking at Wally's perspective, when we look at that Northwest Precinct and we look at the bow tie areas, road realignment, where the civic facilities might sit, what we control, I suppose we need to take into account thinking about the big box retail area that already exists. So whether you're changing and redeveloping it, I think it still needs to think about what the relationship is between that area and what we might create next, as well as thinking about what the relationship to, if we're looking at that space, how's the civic facilities fit in? So what does that change in terms of our relationship to Barrier and the pool and Anderson Park? So I think that within the scope of what we're thinking about, and I think I'm picking up part of what you're saying, is that we need to think about how it sits with what's already with those other spaces that are council owned or council controlled, or, you know, in terms of what happens with these buildings that don't fit in that Northwest Precinct space, don't fit on the bow tie at this point, and what then happens in this space. So I guess, yeah, you can see we want to tighten it and go, what can we, and that certainly is what came out of the workshop, what can we influence, where would we be best spending ratepayer money, but then we also need to consider what impact does that have on our relationship to those other parts of this equation of what is our town centre.
Within the wider scope, we can then master plan different uses, like it might be petrol stations here, hotels over this way, food and beverage there, retail there. Like, you don't want to go doing another mall in the Northwest Precinct where you have one of each of the things necessarily, because the wider plan might be to have a certain type of businesses in the Northwest Precinct, whether it's professional services or accommodation or retail. Like there's within the town centre, because I just don't want to talk about the mall, within the town centre you need different, there's probably 10 distinct sites of tenancies you could have in those places. We might have to have a big deep breath and discuss fast food outlets at some point. And I don't know if we want KFC on one corner, McDonald's on the other, and Burger King on the other, for example. So that's where you need to actually have a plan in place before someone comes along and say, no, that's a shit idea, because actually I'll dream up what mine is now. Like you need to have something in place to then be able to rebut someone's bad idea.
So, just that I'm clear, because what you're talking about is redoing the Cromwell Master Plan, because that was what the Cromwell Master Plan was about. So define different areas within the mall and outside of the mall, so the big box and all that stuff. And we are working within it. If you're talking what you've just described is actually taking that away and redoing a master plan, which is another $1 million equation. So
I don't know what's $1 million to readapt something. It's revisited. Doesn't need to be revisited.
Part of our challenge is that under the regional development requirement and under the RMA reform program, we have to do spatial plans for the entire district. And so that's a body of work we actually have to do. I think the impact of that will be very difficult for us to do individual master plans for Cromwell, because we're going to have to do a whole district-wide one. and a whole regional wide. So everything we do will feed into that. It's probably going to be done, but it's just at the moment the requirements that are coming on us with regards to spatial planning, master planning, is quite significant. And we're probably going to have a full plate for the next couple of years, I would say, 2 to 3.
So you're doing it anyway, is that what I'm hearing?
We are, but we're doing it for the district and we're doing it for the region. So actually we're doing it for, under the regional deals, we have to do a sub-regional spatial plan. So it's probably going to be done as part of that, but I can't say, give an undertaking, but we're just going to do it right now for this, because we're going to have to do it for the sub-region and we're going to have to do one for the region.
Is there any chance we could get the master plan for the mall up on screen, just to know what we're talking about?
I think pictures on page 95 are quite a good indication of your agenda, showing how big that piece of land that we're talking about is. Especially if you're looking at the road realignment and what the potential is for that significant area. And I do, with how long this has been kicking around now, I think it would be really great for Cromwell to see some wins on the board when it comes to the town centre and activating that. And I think actually our council has a real role to play in activating this land that we own. And I would be worried about Scope Creek becoming bigger than Ben Hur, and actually we just spend the next 3 years getting nothing done.
I think it's just as long as we're clear that the Northwest Precinct is stage 1. Because, I mean, you don't have to work on the whole thing at once. We don't have to plan every square metre, and we don't need to do buildings and outlines and lots.
No, we don't, but we also, if we're activating something in here, like when you look at that picture, the Murray Terrace Big Fruit Road Reserve realignment, when you look at that picture and what that offers, when you look across the road to where the likes of Placemakers and BP and Shondai are, there is nothing stopping them from dreaming bigger and having aspirations for blocks of land that are privately owned. And the first thing you would do is look across the road.
Yeah.
What is council doing with their piece? We want a piece of that action, but not at the cost of our ratepayers. And then we're hopeful that people in the current existing more need upgrade and modernise.
Which is one of the recommendations today is to approve the design guidelines, which, sorry, and I missed this, I've discussed what it was an attachment, but I've sent it to Sarah, so we can put it up. It's nothing significant. It's something that they can improve their shop lines out of consenting and improve their side of the stuff from a private point of view. And I've had quite a few owners phone me already saying, what's happening? Can we get on and start doing some stuff? And I said, well, actually, we're taking a paper through the board today to get the design guidelines recommended or adopted so that they can start moving in this space. So that there's a willingness for them to start upgrading. There's a willingness for, if I read the room right when we did the council workshop, was that council said focus on what we own because we have more control over that and we can enable it without having to acquire other buildings and the like. And if anything that the Memorial Horse taught us is that when the industry and the national interest saw that we were investing $45.8 million into a memorial hall, all of a sudden there's a lot of investment interest in this space because it's giving the private investors confidence in this council and this community. I think exactly the same thing as what Your Worship said was that this type of project in kickstarting something off will give them the confidence to start doing exactly the same thing. The biggest challenge in this space is private-public partnership. But if we can just show the private industry that we are willing to put our basically money where our mouth is, you will see the investment start coming through.
Mike has a question online.
Yeah.
Hello, question / comment was remembering back to the workshop, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And it was probably Charlie's idea that I think really got me thinking or got me over the line on wanting to know what the hell I wanted was when you look at these different options that are available in the board pack, there's only two options that talk about the visitor focus, and that is option 7 and option 8. And going back to our North Star, am I correct in remembering that the point of the redevelopment was really to get people to stop, where previously Cromwell had been designed for everyone to drive by? Is that still the main goal of the development in that regard?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, my whole comment there is as long as we have that goal in mind and we all agree on that goal, and I'm not sure, Tamar, because I was ready to go, I was ready to just agree to everything in that workshop, and you pulled me back. It was like, no, we've got to talk about it a bit more. Is this now the time where the board is deciding that that's the goal of this redevelopment, is to make it a place that people stop, and that's how we grow the commerce and the economy of our town?
When I look at those resolutions, they are about developing that 30-year vision. So it does need to think about, I mean, obviously it will be very much a stage structure because money will be the big factor, won't it? Yeah, as it often is.
I don't know how much we have to spend with ratepayers. We just need to free up land to let the private sector get on with it.
Yeah,
For the most
but
part.
having a vision for, yes, we're going to open up this, we envisage that this would be a space where there might be hotel, apartments, office spaces that could, cafe, whatever, that's really what we want to, that's sort of what was talked about at that workshop.
Yeah.
So
If we bring in,
do we need to
detailed concepts,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's going to come through, and then the board can go, yeah, this is exactly what we're kind of thinking. Because if you look at the project structure as well, we're including governance members this time around. So you will always be part of this decision as we start working through this process. And then eventually we come back to the full board and then ultimately full council for a decision to adopt. And once the concepts are adopted, that enables all the investments to start taking place.
Do you want to add any recommendations there about the 30-year vision?
It does have 30-year vision on there. I mean, do you want to add detailed 30-year vision, or does?
Oh, that was the resolution.
That's sort of council.
Yeah.
So, what more do we need to put into what we've all got on?
This recommendation is steering towards civic facilities in the Northwest Precinct.
That's too far advanced. We actually have to start taking all that data that we've collected and developing whether the civic facilities would fit in to the Northwest Precinct or to the both sides.
You have got that in the recommendations. The 30-year concept needs to be in the recommendations. We need to mirror that, I think, back in here to say that we're looking at this, but we've got a long-term view of what might happen in this space to go into that long-term planning process.
Yeah, sounds good. Visitor focus. Cromwell's the capital of Central Otago, and this is the thing that's going to prove it once and for all.
So, what do we need to adjust them? Where are we sitting with those? So autistic. Do you think it needs to have that 30-year thing in it? Which one?
At what point are we going to start calling it the CBD? I think that's the crux of it.
You just want to add your own resolution, G, what's up?
Well, maybe you could just put investigate, so in B, recommends the council that staff investigate options within the Northwest Precinct and conduct a high-level, detailed 30-year concept design.
You ever discussed facilities?
No. Yeah. Can we please the council that staff investigate options in the Northwest Precinct and conduct high-level, detailed concept design? 30-year concept design.
So, do we need to expand that Northwest Precinct to include the boat effectively, it's the highlighted yellow piece.
Correct.
Do you want to call it Northwest Precinct, or should we call
it council owned?
Well, if you
land
council owned land, which includes Northwest Precinct and the boat reserve.
Council owned town user land.
Flow difference.
Yeah, this is, and this, because if you're talking, because civic bits are written in there, so we
Well,
can start
if you
thinking
look at
about
the civic bits, it says, it recommends to council that the high level detailed concept design includes the necessary civic. It doesn't mean it's going to go in the northwest precinct
no.
or the both.
I think we
It
need
might,
but it's part of
but
the
it could be part of any of our council element.
means to council establishing options for the council such include the north west precinct and other council owned landing facilities.
Cool.
Oh, it's just something on the.
I don't, there might be two, I might have been making it two. That Scope Creek thing could be coming back in here.
There's an obligation on the mall buildings to have verandas, so how is that affecting the design guidelines at all?
So the design guidelines are talking about where there's no support poles, so kind of freestanding, but it's optional. And what we've also done in the design guidelines is that if you did want to have major changes, then that would require a resource consent. So people can apply for that to say, I don't want a veranda, and then they'll either get accepted or not accepted. But the point is, with the design guidelines, it's broad enough to allow them to get on and do some stuff. There can be no comeback saying that we haven't enabled them to be go ahead and invest in their private properties. We're basically saying we're getting on with the the public input into this development. They can get on with the private stuff as well. We're just aligning our thought process.
And this just might be me not fully across how resolutions to council staff work, but do we not need to put a purpose in here as to why we're doing this? It just seems like it's all very develop it for the sake of redeveloping it, and I feel like without a purpose, that's how you end up with Scope Creek.
I think that's part of your high level data.
I think that comes back to us in our high level details, doesn't it?
Would you like to remove within the council owned land and put for the council owned land? Because it might then involve land that's not currently within that boundary. But it's,
outside of the detail 30-year concept design, were you thinking that includes something like which about those goals that we've already that reflects the goals identified?
So in the text document,
Yeah.
I think there's a.
If it's not written down, it eventually gets forgotten.
It is attached in the presentation.
Yeah,
It is attached in the presentation, yeah. It is a lot in the presentation though, that we
have an H in there that notes that the purpose of these recommendations is to comply with the purpose as set out in appendix.
Yeah.
B, whatever it is.
page 111.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appendix 1. That's where the North Star stuff is. Place of people, catalyst, source of identity and pride. Yeah.
That's the purpose.
Yeah.
Is to enable.
Page 1. Yeah, that's an appendix.
You could just put. Do you want to put the whole statement in there, or do you just put the guiding North Star statement?
North Star statement, yeah. Star. It's fine. Forget your name, Gareth, we are. Yeah, 15 minutes now for the moment. Yeah. Yeah, way ahead. We won't have another session rather quickly than we thought we might.
Yeah.
So I'm quite grateful for this.
Cool.
Right, can you people please put a critical eye over these so that we aren't opening ourselves up for misinterpretations? Yes. Recommends to councils that staff investigate options for the council owned land, which includes the northwest precinct, and conducts a high level detailed 30-year concept design. Ducks producers. Recommends to council that the high level detailed concept design and necessary civic facilities. Recommends to council that staff investigate and cost road realignments on Murray Terrace and the intersection at Barry Avenue and Miami Drive, Cromwell. Recommends to council that the implementation of private property design guidelines within Cromwell Town Centre. Recommends to council the adoption of the project structure and governance group framework. Recommends to council that governance updates be provided at every board council meeting. Notes that the purpose of these recommendations is to enable the guiding North Star statement in Appendix 1 of the report.
Question?
Yes.
Would you like to recommend where the money comes from? No.
Wow.
Well, it will be right.
So in order for us to set a budget, so I worked on a 21 LCP where we basically did some screening rates about high-level budget. I did put into our annual plan an indicative number, but I feel that it'll be refined through this process because we have to have this done by September.
Yeah.
And then that'll inform what the figures are going to be, and that'll inform where that's actually going to be coming from. So,
is there any money left in that pot that we approved last time?
no, we went, it ended up, it was used for reserves and then going to debt funding and then finance a whole lot of things by land sales. But with Paul Morris's new investment strategy, which I think is really good, part of the process, it might be going into debt, servicing the debt via an investment portfolio and then retaining your capital that we're generating out of the land sales.
I think the long and short of it is this, all this work now, and the reason for
Well, tell
this
us what it-
timeline is for inclusion in the LTP.
Yeah.
And so if we work back from that, I think our sundown is around, I'll say a later date than my colleague over there, but.
So that need to say that in B then, which is what I asked before, for inclusion in the 27-37 LTP.
Yeah.
100%.
Right, so let's just add that to B then.
I think didn't you put in about 70 odd million?
Yeah.
For the two projects.
Yes.
Obviously, you guys a large chunk of that for that, so nominally, there is authority within the budget and the last LTP for some of money to be put towards this.
Yep.
It's unlikely, but it's likely or unlikely to be enough, I'm not sure yet. This will clarify what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
did put a normal figure of about $35 million.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's just pure average square meter rate, no scientific back data. I think this will insert with my systems.
Right, so there are the recommendations. Have another critical think about them.
Do we need to mention the Northwest Precinct? Because it's just talking about council land, which includes Northwest Precinct, it includes lots of other stuff. We could just take out that
Yeah,
Northwest
you
Precinct.
probably can.
Okay.
Before we do that,
In the town centre.
it's just that from the workshop, the direction was to focus on that area.
We could add in a I saying.
With a focus,
Yeah.
yeah, so which includes all with a focus on the Northwest Precinct.
I think you could just include it. I think that probably that covers, that recommendation covers the fact that we're also talking about that. We're not just talking about this area and the roads.
I think we need to have another workshop on this just to.
I think it probably will, as part of this. I
Definitely
think
want
that there's definitely going to be more conversation because this is a very initial step.
honestly, this enables us to actually get on and then get some more workshops going.
All right, are we there?
Looks good to me.
Well, I'm asking you, I'm asking.
We're trying it.
When we're talking about the cost of the detailed plans, is that something that you want to be accounted for in this, or is that something that you're satisfied does sit within the existing budgets because of that?
We have existing budget that we allocated to us last year, which were
Is it 495K?
It's 250,000.
I'll check this.
And remember, we've got a lot of stuff that's already gone by as well, so it's just using that to create something. This we can have a good conversation, so the council and community board already allocated that $250,000 to essentially finish off or to create resolution. Yeah, around the public.
so we don't need any more funding.
Yeah.
If you're that,
Yeah.
okay, cool, righty ho. Last chance. Do I have a mover and seconder?
Hey, Wally, you better put your hand up for that.
These are comfortable though.
We've got this, but
Where are we at? What needs to change to get this so that it's not just going to lie on the table?
I can just see us here in a year going, oh, look, it's written down in that report, but there's so much stuff written down.
But this is going to be a detailed concept design report that we will get that will be fresh because it says that.
And can I add in as well, the project structure includes governance. But
Yeah.
really kind of you're just keeping everybody close on this, Wally, as we move through this. If it is, inevitably it's going to be another massive project for this council that will go for years. It's a slightly different project structure, keep governance and operations very close to.
I don't know how big the council needs to be there. I think we just need to give the private sector some.
I know, but that's hopefully what we'll, once we
I
open
think
it
that's
up.
not it's not for this community board or this council to say we want a hotel there and a McDonald's there and, that piece there needs to be set aside. That's not our role. It's about enabling the activation of that land.
I mean, not the logo, but the master planning of where.
But if from a commercial point of view, if it's commercial and McDonald's wants to go on that kind of Burger King on that, and it's a commercial venture within a commercial zone, resource consent will determine whether it's appropriate or not, but if the underlying zone allows it, you don't put one of the roofs in the back.
Is this going to be an item on our agenda each month?
Yeah.
And so we'll come up in our status reports every month.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you have to deal with me every single month.
Well, we do anyway.
Just checking that,
Right, are we there? Should we move it in a second now?
How about I move it?
Right. And Sarah will second it, all in favour? Carried. We'll be sorry. Yes. Thanks, Dominic. Did we take one's off, so
They didn't want to stay for the electricity easement. They didn't want to stay for any of the last hour and a half. They were just too polite to leave.
right. 844.
Got one of them.
Request for Minister of Conservation's consent for electricity easements over Anderson Park Recreation Reserve from Cromwell.
I'll pick this up. Body's an apology. I'll take care as well. Hopefully everybody's I'll take it for a read. So if probably the easiest way to explain is pages 145 agenda. Just gives a bit of an overview of where that easement's going. And then through our delegation from the minister, this comes with your recommendation or not through to council to be resolved to allow it. Obviously crosses through the eastern there, crosses through the reserve. If you take any questions, and I guess some of the items that are on the roading reserve too, which you will be able to chime in for a little bit.
Sarah.
My issue with this item is that there is a subtext that I think deserves to be a conversation on its own, right?
Yeah.
I would not like to see this approved as is with no direction on that or them being separated out.
Yeah.
I understand that that's the catalyst for this coming to us, and I don't disagree with what the paper's asking for that's just tidying up some easements, formalising some arrangements. That makes total sense. But I do think there is a higher level conversation that needs to be had around what's where and how and what we're endorsing and what we know as well. Like it doesn't necessarily come to this table. That's come as a byline.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually really
You're talking about the cell tower.
Yeah. Sorry. That being a byline of the background rather than within anything else that we've talked about or coming to us separately. I think as a community board, that's something that will create a lot of emotional reaction in our community.
Yeah.
So it should be something that we're talking about.
With that cell tower goes through a different approach that, as I understand, been approved, going in that roading reserve. And so I guess as part of the easement that you're looking at, and it's about the electrical bit and removing maybe that, any endorsement of that cell tower in the community board, but from a, because it is going in the roading reserve, I understand that has been approved through that means. So
I mean, because this is, Mr. Chairman, you could give a recommendation to council. Ultimately, the delegation is to council for the reserve.
electrical easement component, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can voice your frustration, but
Doesn't get you, but
Can I ask why we're just getting aerial photos? Sorry, I haven't seen cell tower up close and personal with AI. Why couldn't a plan be presented in this report?
It's not cell tower.
this isn't the cell tower. This is just the power easement, and there's a power box there.
Yeah.
But a cell tower has been approved on a non-notified basis
Okay.
to be put in, and part of this is it came up when they were looking at putting the cell tower in. They realised the power wasn't formalised agreement, so they're formalising the power agreement to then move on to stage B of this process.
Which we won't get say.
And we don't get
anything in the road.
Which seems a bit. Do either of you know, Peter or David, why the red box associated cabinetry is so far away from the proposed cell tower, and why it's not with the associated cabinetry on the other side of the tree?
no, I don't.
I wouldn't know why that.
It's just spreading it out.
But yeah, they give us their sort of proposed design of how it comes together.
It's the word
It's not what I thought.
cabinetry new though, it's the, like the cabinetry is probably a transformer, right?
It's a crap position,
Yeah.
if I'm honest.
Like,
For a cell
something
tower.
like that, yeah.
For any, I mean, that's a really highly populated bit of land there with the turf and how it narrows with the corner of that, like that whole section that's in all of those photos is quite busy.
Yeah.
I think you've got an alternative. There's nothing.
They did move it down originally, didn't they? Because it was up, right up in the, by the light box of the turf originally, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's moved out onto the road.
Yeah.
Which, as a trustee of the turf, makes a lot more sense for our usability.
Yeah.
Makes a lot less sense for the people of Barry Ave and the visibility of the tower.
Mm. So I guess, yeah.
The report itself, it does take this up.
Oh, yeah, because we don't give saying, we don't get to say, we really don't like the idea of cell tower being put in this position in our town.
Could there be a recommendation that, the applicant is asked to reconsider the location?
Well, we've already granted.
It's been granted.
If it's been granted, it's been granted.
We can't retract that because we've
That's
changed.
right.
Yeah.
But we haven't,
Granted permission.
Yeah.
Now that is what we are seeking.
We don't get the easement.
so this paper is, I'm not in it about telco, because this easement is just about power. Like, it doesn't, like, it's the wider conversation that this whole thing has happened. In my mind, that's a reasonably significant addition to a very populated part of town.
Yeah.
It's significant. You drive, a lot of people go down Barry Ave. It's going to be right on the street, and it hasn't come to this table. It hasn't come to conversation. It's been consented. I've had people call up, and it makes us look stupid. You know, the first call I get is the guy that lives over the road and said, "This is disgusting, and you're doing this," and I'm like,
Let's be honest, cell towers have to go everywhere.
they do.
The reality is, you can't always have them in the middle of nowhere because everyone wants to see what happens.
Well, so we're looking at
Have you
getting
done
5G. If we're looking at getting, I'm assuming this is a 5G tower, right? Which is right in the centre of town, which is part of Cromwell's development. We're going to need more 5G towers, and they're going to go up in more places, right?
Yeah.
This will be the first of many, I would expect, as the Cromwell town grows.
Which opens account
Which,
to
you
where
know,
they go.
the decisions that have been made, there's already resource consent, we have to make a decision over an easement that should already have been in existence, but isn't. That's basically what we're doing, isn't it? We're saying this easement needs to be retrospectively approved.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second. I have somebody second the motion on page 144. So we're not making any decision on that. So all you're getting is
This is
you get a box, a normal power box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the definition there.
It's a box and then the cell tower there.
So the box is already in existence, is it? Or is there a new box going?
There'll be a box going.
But it will be the standard box,
So,
electrical box.
Yeah.
Like you see all
Might
over
be
the
a
place.
painted.
Might even get painted by a student from Cromwell College. Should they?
There
So when is this being, that means it's proposed, right?
When would they do it?
Yeah.
We haven't got their work program, mate. It's going through this.
So the power box will go first in cell tower?
This isn't about, this paper isn't about that.
So we don't get to make a decision on that because that's resource consent's been granted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to second that?
I'll second it. It's quite like it just the easements need to be tidied up and made official, right? For Aurora. That's the number one thing here. It's completely separate from the cell tower, which we can we don't have I question the consenting a little bit because it is going to make the Cromwell Community Board look a little bit silly, but in all honesty, I'm also a big fan of technology and cell towers are going to get to going everywhere. So, you know, it's going to be a problem until people get used to them, I guess.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. All in favour? Anyone against? Takes us to another easement on page 140.
Just for clarity, it's the blue. Just on page 150 is probably the. Okay. You space one? Sorry, I'll take the report as read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a new report.
Here we go, it's still at the table.
You are, you see, would have understood that you sit at the front.
That's right. So page 150 of the agenda is what we're looking at this. This one up.
It's really hard to read on the
Yeah,
screen.
it's hard to see the colours, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see it on our screens.
Yeah, it's sort of the best, it's sort of just in the reserve area that we have.
Yeah.
Best form, like Garden Road Reserve, but it's probably the best place to keep that land as well utilised as we can.
Is the red line through the middle of the site already covered by an easement, we know?
Don't know.
So the red line's sewer.
No, this is only electrical.
It's only electrical, that's, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't know.
We're using different colours.
Yeah, just to confuse.
That's usually good.
It's not, it's just somebody's drawn red lines on a plan. But not sewer red lines, it's got different spacing.
I want to use the blue line because it's easier for them than going through private properties and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we could agree to it on the understanding or on the principle that if we ask them to move their other lines from within the site to the outside at some later point, that they would agree to that. Because I think on balance, it's probably about, not for me to say that it's neutral, but it's more neutral on balance because the blue line is still in the favour.
Yeah.
We might need a favour later on.
don't know how you put that in the resolution.
Go on, Sarah, see what you can say.
Maybe the preferred corridor or the.
No, I think it just, if we agree to it on the basis that Aurora would ship their cable at a later date, we ask to. There's some word input to it.
Is there any, recognising that that piece of land there is going to become quite integral to the future when it's beside there, is that our preferred location?
It is, yeah, it's closest to the road, so it's, and it frees up all that, well, just.
So we managed to get our preferred location and their preferred location,
Yeah.
all in one on the blue line.
I don't think the blue line's necessarily going to supersede the orange and red lines. But it'd be good to formally expect them if we were asked, particularly if it's not already in an east.
Yeah.
Because if it's not already in an eastern, actually, then surely they would be asking for an eastern there at the same time. So maybe
I
that's
guess we just note that and note that and have a conversation.
it affects the usability of it, so what it currently is.
Sorry, Wally, are you talking about wanting to potentially move the yellow line and the red line all at the same time?
No, just when it might be needed.
I mean, could we ask
Someone
them? Could we ask them to do it now? Like the blue line would then, yeah, couldn't the red line just continue up where the blue line now is?
From their perspective, it will depend on sequencing and keeping stuff live, perhaps. I'm not sure. Don't know if we can speak to that.
I do. I'm just wondering about whether, if we are freeing up that land reserve for potential use later on down the track, asking for it to be done now would at least be probably a prudent step from our perspective. And if they say no, so be it. But yeah, I don't know, the option to move it later on. Easements can be tricky to move, so now's the time if they're asking for something that we could probably ask for something back, would be my thoughts.
Okay, so my thoughts are how do we put that into the resolution?
Yeah.
Sarah's got one. Sarah's going to put one up for you to have a look at.
Cool.
Thank
you. You stop sharing your screen, Sarah, so I can't see it.
Yes.
We're still.
That's fine. Can't see it. Do you want to add something B or do you want to add the C? Put it up one look. Put it a C and then we can decide whether it's going to. So we've got A and B as they were, and C now agrees to request that council give consideration to removing the existing infrastructure at the same time as installing the new pipelines. That was.
I can't see it anymore.
Yeah, I'll take it. Got something better to please chat now.
I think we take out agrees and just put requests that council give consideration to removing existing, or not even remove, sorry.
Request that council give consideration to moving the existing infrastructure
At the same time.
at the same time or to the same easement.
As part of the same easement.
As part of
There's only one way to negotiate with regional monopolies usually, and that is to have something give and take something, right? So that's gives consideration as, I don't know, that's fairly soft language when it comes to this stuff, but I don't know, there's a bit of give and take that could potentially work out better for the ratepayers of Cromwell rather than what would likely happen, which would be Aurora says, yep, you can remove it, but it's going to cost you money. And I think that's the way that these things usually end up happening. So if they're asking for something back might actually work out in the ratepayers' best interest.
bearing in mind that they're asking for something that suits them over another option.
Say again, sorry, Wally?
The blue line is the easier option for Aurora, as I understand it, so.
Correct,
I think we're
and it's the
positioned-
cheapest option.
Yeah. We're in a position to ask for something better.
I just, having negotiated with these guys in the past, it's a hell of a hard job when they're a regional monopoly where they don't have to do anything really. And all you can do is ask very, very nicely. So yeah, having a bit of leverage is never a harmful thing, I think.
I mean, as another option, you could leave this on the table and we go and have the discussion if you want to.
Well, I mean,
We can only
that's something the council can consider, because they are delegated authority. You can make this point, I mean, council can consider it. We'd probably have to have a conversation with Aurora QB just to see what the impact of that would be.
So all we're saying is recommend the council request.
Yeah.
That existing infrastructure is moved at the same time.
Well, that's what
Part
we
of
can
the same
do.
meeting. It's just to say, can you have the conversation? It just means it's noted in the minutes, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, if the language is part of the same easement is accurate. Can't like,
Do we just put?
We'll just move that.
As
to an agreed location,
Yeah.
To an agreed location.
not to a worse location.
Not to a worse. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't
What
need
do
it.
you mean?
Are we ready then? Mover and seconder.
You can go.
I'll move.
Oh, you're way too late.
You can second.
You can be the seconder. All in favour? Anyone against? Nobody needs to be against that. Cool.
I just had a look at the resource consent for the Aurora one, and the reason why it's located at the park is because it's adjacent to the 20-metre light tower. That's on that corner of the church, so they're almost aligned. So you've got two 20-metre towers, so just in the design, adjacent to each other. Light tower, cell tower.
So where's it moved to? I thought it had moved along the middle of the,
No, on their design plan,
yeah,
they've got the cellular tower adjacent to the corner
which corner?
of the, or the corner.
Looking at the map,
Where
it's
it's at the closest corner.
bottom,
It's
close to
where
the
the light
road.
tower is. And the light tower is 20 metres high, which is the same height as the cellular tower. So that's probably why it's located there, because there's already an existing 20-metre structure within a few metres of it. Visually.
Visually, it's better than where it was right in the middle of the grass that the kids use next to the turf for the building. Still.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And next, we move to the mayor's report. No, roads not. Oh, jumping ahead.
Chill your boots.
Sorry.
Just come and say it. Do you think she sat down for listen to talk?
That is so terrible.
Yeah,
Sorry, Alex.
that is all right. I'm just filling out the statutory property, so I'll pretend that you told them it was the best, most important thing on the agenda.
I will.
And this is just the bits of the policy that relate to road stopping that were in the road policy that we've separated out for two reasons. The first is because most of the delegations sit with property, so it's a property policy, not a roading policy. And the second one is that the new roading policy is quite neat. It follows a short type structure, and this is long and unwieldy and would just look really out of place there. So we have separated it out and we're bringing it to you today just for any feedback or anything to consider in it. As you can see in the table, there is not a lot of change, but there is a lot of what we would describe as clarifying, which can sometimes result in a change in the interpretation. But I have had zero feedback so far from any other community boards, so you are welcome to do the same if you like, or give us some suggestions before it goes to council too.
I'm not sure if it needs to be part of the policy, but normally when in my experience, when people are stopping roads, part of a wider development, it can be part of a subdivision at the same time. And the person proposing to stop the road is covering the costs. And they usually have a surveyor on board by that stage. So council don't need to let out through a kids tender or any other form to initiate that work and then charge the person stopping the road. So I think, like I said, more often than not, the person stopping the road already has that well under control. I just didn't, it wasn't strictly pointing at that. A similar thing would be the valuation, but I'm sure that you'd go for the person closing the road to engage their own value. So, so that's sort of, it's similar but different to the survey. I think the valuer, I think the council's valuation is just a valuation, right, in those situations.
So we usually get two. So it's one is from the council, one is from the landowner.
Yeah.
That's doing the stuff. And then we sort of negotiate the middle ground. It's usually a basic concept to do the valuation, and they usually are within who of each other anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just the outliers where we have a bit of discrepancy, but those we deal with on an individual basis anyway. So I think this is, I have no problem with utilising an existing server because server.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the client's job that's ongoing.
Yeah, and we've redone the whole working around road stoppings to put more emphasis onto the person that's requesting it. And that way it's under their control and their speed and how quickly they can actually get this thing through the line.
Yeah.
So I think it absolutely concurs with what you're suggesting. We'd be really able to assist in that space.
Yep. And I saw the words in there to the effect of value to the highest and best use of the land.
Yeah.
So I think there's a situation where you might have a paper road between residentially zoned land and rural zoned land. Would that get valued in the residential side? I suspect so.
I think between the valuers, they sort it out themselves and they're the experts in that space. But like I said, discrepancies, usually there's two valuations and then we meet in the middle ground. So I think it's a really fair process.
Any other things, feedback that people want to give?
We're the most engaging community board. Look.
Yeah.
Does council project use the Crown, what do you call it, Crown accreditation? Well, or do you just tell the person closing the road, use the Crown accreditation, go talk to them?
We actually are looking at the focus going back to the owner on this one. We have been doing that in the past, but it's creating a lot of pressure onto the team that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
If the owner goes and does that engagement themselves, then they also have a better understanding of why it takes the length of time that it does take. So I think it's better that it's covered by them. And Zelda's been really proactive in this space and has written a new schedule. So most of the work will basically at the end of the day take a paper through to the council to get first board in the council to get it ratified. But all the work will be done basically.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
All right. No other comments? Page 155. And all we're asked to do here is that the report is received and its contents noted, and of course your feedback has been added to feedback to staff. So maybe a second, please. Thank you, Rebecca and Wally. All in favour? Carried. And Tamer, it is your turn now.
Thanks, Alex, because I put some Cromwell highlights. So last week I was lucky enough to be invited along to open the NZNCA National Rally at the Cromwell Golf Course, the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve. I was possibly the youngest person there by a reasonably significant margin.
The music that was playing over the loudspeaker would indicate that to you.
Yeah, but I had a really cool time and they were so thrilled to be here in Cromwell. I went to open it and then I went to what to do and then I went back. And they were loving being in Cromwell and really happy with the facilities and what's on offer around the district, and that actually the organisers had put together a really great program of all sorts of things for the people there to go out and do in the community, from wine tours and bike rides and all sorts. So no, I think that was really positive. Lots of them are still here. The town was really buzzing over the Easter weekend. Nichols sale took a thrashing from my credit card, so now I've got lots of plants to plant, but that's all right because I had a long weekend.
We had our council meeting in Ranfurly 2 weeks ago now, where we signed on Councillor Dowling, so it's great to have a full set of councillors now. We also approved a couple of things that had come through to council from the board, so one being the Cromwell golf course alterations of their. I got to get this. Cromwell Golf Club can go ahead with their invigorating the buildings, and also Cromwell's working title. The proposed event on reserve land has also been given the go ahead to look into that. I've been to a number of meetings around local democracy reporting, which has been quite interesting, and hopefully managed to push a little bit of a direction of us getting our reporter here under that banner, recognising that there's a lot happening in this space at the moment, and it's important that people know about it. And then I just saw on the way past here that fuel is just shy of $4 at BP across the road, and diesel at $3.80, and that is going to impact all of us, but also all of our council operations. Air New Zealand's just sent out another email announcing more flight reductions for Queenstown Airport as they struggle to fuel all of their planes. So I think this might be going to get worse before it gets better, but hopefully all of you have got a bike, and isn't it lucky that we've got so many great bike tracks that people will be able to get around on between work, school, meetings, sports practices. I think it's going to be a bumpy couple of months, so we'll all be buckling in.
One thing you forgot there, Tamar, was you took advice from your favourite community board member and you've pulled the trigger on solar on your property with all this energy stuff that's going on.
I am, I think, the second direct success as Mike works on his way to solar power every person at this table and all of the other tables. So yes, I've signed on the dotted line for solar power in the face of $4 a litre petrol.
Make sure you include that, Sarah. That's important.
Got it down.
Oh, thank you. Have a mover and second for planning support, please.
Yeah, go on.
Thank you. Those two, Wally and Sarah. My report is brief. I attended the Museum Plus meeting on a day in March, 9th of March. They are continuing to work on their heads of agreement with David and his team. They are they're having some wobbly moments there. They're worried it's a big thing to move all of their operation from where they are, where they've always been up here in the Cromwell Mall, to a new space. And so they had lots of questions around access to the space and all of the other spaces and shared usage and where their workspaces would be, how they would lay out exhibitions and all of those sorts of things. So David and the team are very much working through that with them and assuring them that the operation of the museum is paramount in their thinking. So that's where they're sitting at the moment. Very excited to be moving, but also that anxiety about what does this look like. And of course, they will still have use of the facility up here for storage while they're getting established and set up and feel what the new space will look like. Rebecca and I attended a meeting with a group of Bannockburn Responsible Development Group on the 11th, it's one of those weeks that it'll happen today. On the 11th of March, their initial concerns and reason for contacting us was after they had spoken at Public Forum and managed to get quite quick action in the next meeting to their concerns about the cycle trail and where it intersects with Bannockburn Road and the bridge and getting up into Bannockburn and Club. They have quite a lot of other concerns around infrastructure in Bannockburn that to meet the requirements of the or to meet the influx of people that may be using those cycle trails, and how a space that doesn't have public toilets, public green spaces where people can gather, footpaths, bike parking, but particularly concerned about toilets and water being the things that people on bikes are going to want to be trying to find, and will find it hard to find. They've got some other concerns there as well, that are about Bannockburn and the development of the township and how that looks and what controls are in place to make sure that it's done in a responsible way, that consideration is given to green spaces. And they would really love to have a spatial plan, which from what you have said, Peter, is likely to come as part of a more regional think about these things. They've got some quite specific requests, being people who have done quite a lot of homework on the types of things that they could be looking at, and would like to look at cyclists, rezoning some space to create green spaces in the town, and long-term plan projects that might include a spatial plan or community plan for Bannockburn. I have had a brief talk with Becca, and I know she can't fit a community plan into her work program at this point, so they may be waiting a wee while before they get either of those things. But initial concerns of roading, toilets, footpaths, parking. That's my report. I can make it.
I've seen it.
And members' reports. How about we start with you, Mike? 'Cause I know you sent yours through, being the capable human that you are.
And I've also got better than that.
Oh,
Cool.
You're about to have Anne through.
I've got my secretary.
First, Sarah.
Sorry, sorry, I didn't hear that. Do you guys want me to go now?
Yeah, go, Mike.
Cool. So I've just done a chronicle of my diary over the last month, which has been more national focused than it has been focused on our particular rohi. But on the 4th of March, I attended a NZME breakfast, which is all around business leaders focused on commercial solar development in Auckland, which was really, really good. And then Tamar also presented at the select committee for the infrastructure funding and finance amendment bill, specifically about the ratepayers assistance scheme, and hoping to piggyback that into the omnibus bill. That was looking all very well and good at the start of the month, but a lot has changed with this fuel crisis in particular, and obviously some shuffling around of ministerial responsibilities and stuff. I've got my old energy minister back now, Simeon Brown. Ratepayers assistance scheme doesn't relate too much to energy, but so still very much hoping that that will be pushed forward, but also keen to see what will happen there with Chris Bishop's new responsibilities now that he is no longer leader of the House. So we'll have to have a wait and see whether that is going to be the one, going to be the option there. On the 6th of March, I spent the afternoon with David Seymour, which was also a lot of fun, talking about how the ratepayers assistance scheme wasn't a subsidy and getting into the neoliberal economic theory around that, which was good. Also spoke about a lot of electrification, filmed him in a couple of videos that have now gone up for rewiring, discussed New Zealand's energy strategy, and also went joyriding in electric vehicles, which I think was actually the most effective thing for getting him to realise that the future of our energy system is going to be run on New Zealand-made energy. 7th of March, I did the Motatapu mountain bike race, which was fun, but I was a little bit crook. 9th of March, I unfortunately missed the Cromwell promotions group meeting because that mountain bike race really took it out of me, and I got more sick after that. On the 10th of March, I went to Christchurch and got to hoon around on what I think is the world's first certified fully electric fire truck, which is a sight to behold, and a lot of fun to be able to be in that. 11th of March, met with the Meridian executive team to present on my personal background and what I'm trying to achieve. They've always been a little bit standoffish with me, so it was nice to finally get in there with them. And also did a strategic workshop really focused around public EV charging and home solar strategy development for them. I was also unable to attend the RSA meeting on the 12th due to being unwell, but thank you for Rebecca for holding fort on that one. That was awesome. 17th of March, I was part of the orientation tour for the Play Hui. Couldn't hang out for any more of the Play Hui because on the 19th of March, I went to meet the Taxpayers Union in Auckland about the Ratepayers Assistance Scheme. I was then filmed for talking about solar for the My House, My Castle series that's coming up very soon. That evening was the Kiwi Bank New Zealand of the Year Awards. So as you all know, very, very happy about the outcome there for the Sustainability Leader of the Year. And then also, yes, I'm in the process now through that of confirming my Ngāi Tahu whakapapa, which is exciting. And then the 24th of March, I missed the CDC trust meeting because they shifted the date on me. So I've only actually been to one of those meetings so far, but I'm in contact with Shirley about that to make sure that happens. 25th was my 42nd birthday, which is amazing. On the 26th of March, I hosted a Māori leaders workshop on my farm relating to whakahiko te ao and whakahiko ngā marae, which is awesome. So have been now invited to speak at the iwi Leaders Forum around electrification in the Māori world, which is pretty exciting. 27th of March, we ran the information session for council around solar, which many of you were able to be at, the opportunity potentially at Sandflat Road, which I thought went down really, really well. Then hosted Opportunity Party on Farm, and that was about writing energy policy for them. And then on the 28th of March, I did another cycling event where I came 16th of all and 5th in the old bastard category. So that was very exciting. And then quickly flew up to Auckland for Q&A with Jack Tame, which went down really, really well. And then last week in Wellington, I've been at the Downstream Energy Conference, where the energy crisis is a hot topic. Met with Mark Patterson and Dr. David Wilson MPs from New Zealand First to talk about the Ratepayers Assistance Scheme and broader energy policy. And then Easter happened, which was great because I was really tired. So I got a chance to relax for 5 days after that. And the thing I need to stress, I need to call Alex about this as well, is everything is looking to the price of liquid fuels going way, way higher than what it is now. What I only learned really recently is oil tankers travel about as fast as push bikes. And so it takes months and months and months for something to get from one place to another around the world. And many of the ships that left before the war started are only still arriving at their destinations now. But there are not many ships following after that. So I think, as Tamar rightly pointed out, and obviously has been pointed out with other potential projects that are maybe delayed at the council level, that things are going to get very, very tight very, very quickly. I'm going to be very interested to see how this affects ski season, but there's probably not going to be a lot of people driving up hills at this particular point in time. And I think we need to be looking very seriously at what in council can be electrified now, because the other thing that I have learned very recently is the last time we had an oil crisis in the 1970s, New Zealand didn't fully economically recover for nearly 10 years. So what we are going to be seeing now is potentially very high prices for a considerable length of time. Even when peace is declared, there'll be a lot of bottlenecks to need to be cleared up. And Shimabel has suggested about $2,500 per household is what every household in New Zealand will have been paid for this war by the time it finishes up. So that sort of shows you just how significant this potentially is going to be. And that is if peace happened tomorrow. Let's sort of get rid of those hybrid RAV4s, Peter, and get some electric ones. It might actually work out quite financially beneficial for ratepayers to look at leasing those. The other thing that I learned the other day is that we have an unlimited supply of electric vehicles, provided you're willing to wait 6 months for 3 months for them. It takes from the point of order. It now takes 2 months to manufacture an electric vehicle in China and 1 month to ship it here. So that is what we are looking at, and that is it for me.
Thanks, Mike. Wally.
Right.
There's no point, it's there, just be like, yeah, I did some stuff.
Sounds like I'll be sleeping.
Did a meeting with us.
In the weekend, I went to Warburgs on the Sunday and Speedway and Cromwell on the Friday and Sunday as well. Sunday was good. Attended the Targo Champs Athletics. I wasn't an athlete. There was 4 athletes there from Cromwell, which is good. How long's the club been going now? Like 3, 4?
This is our fourth year. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So starting to get the Cromwell singlet out there, which is great. This was South BA5 last week, I think it was, maybe 2 Thursdays ago. And last week I attended the Cromwell's coordination meeting between council and the trust and Click as well. I went to the play Hui Well, what do you call it, Play Innovation Hui finale that was held at council chambers, a couple of weeks ago as well. Just for the record, I've been solar for 12 months now. Looking like $4.5 grand savings on the first year. So 5-year payoff maybe, except for the fact that normal bills are going up. So that's going to make the payoff look good. And I'm turning 42 as well, where the 84 babies in.
Shut up, Anna. Don't Just leave it. Just leave it.
In March, I attended the Central Otago Spaces and updated strategic strategy workshop run by Sport Otago, and that's just the local sports representatives and Cromwell College. That was, yeah, just brainstorming. Attended the drop-in session at the Farmers Market around the name of the facility by Lake, which had small engagement, but the locals responded to the visual and reinforce their thoughts. Then the 11th was Anna, the Bannockburn Responsible Development Society, hosted by Charlie Nicola Hughes. Yeah, it was good starting conversation. 12th March attended the Cromwell RSA meeting, and I'm working with Peter to do the public election on the 17th with some students, possibly from the Scouts. Just with safety, with my role at Cromwell College on management and health and safety meetings, great concern over the number of young people with e-bikes and e-scooters being overpowered and quite dangerous. We've had Gary Milford from the community policing come in and review all them. Very interesting what parents are purchasing for their young people. So whether a cycle lane needs to be investigated. Yeah, great. Serve on this book for us. My involvement with Cromwell Club, we got our constitution signed off, special meeting and submitted on time. Attended the Māori Cup rowing regatta in Twizel for 4 days, over 2,000 secondary school rowers, road schedule, brilliant water. Over 100 volunteers, it was fantastic. I've been volunteering and participating in Parkrun, which is going really well, strength to strength. I popped into paddleball, which is opened up on McNulty Road on the opening weekend. I'd like to issue a challenge.
Come on.
To my community board members. I think we need to book a session on the court. And Summer Fling Golf finished on St Patrick's Day. No prizes for me. There we go. That's me.
Cool. Paddleball competition.
I think so.
My burns from the gym have just healed from the last time I played, so you're on. Oh, and I just did all the same stuff you all did, so it's not exciting. Right, March the 16th, we had an assessment committee meeting for creative communities. Twice a year we meet to very generously give out some grant money for projects that are happening. So creative communities, nice to see that there's some Bannockburn projects included in that. But again, nice to see more coming through. There was actually a little bit of funding left over, so anybody you talk to that has something in that creative community space, get them to get in touch or have a look online for what the criteria are. And the next meeting is in September, where we'll do the same give. March the 17th and 19th was the Play Hui. Again, I've said this before at this table, but it was an incredible achievement for Maria particularly, but Parks team as a whole, supporting that, to bring that event to Central Otago. Actually really insightful to put that play lens over other aspects of what we do here. The people were next level enthusiastic. There's probably a toned down way of putting it. Dr. Play himself being here, semi-celebrity. But I think the particular significance to the context of sitting here was that the talk was about incorporating play, and that doesn't just mean a playground. Doesn't just mean every time you build a housing development or a new town or anywhere you put a playground in. It's about how we incorporate that into everything. And I was lucky enough, Mike and I took a car tour around Cromwell for 3 hours and showed them all our spaces. And we started with the mall and we walked past through to the big fruit and the underpass and then all the way back through Anderson Park. And they were blown away by how you can get from the Wound Tree to Goldfields safely on a scooter. And, you know, using my kids as an example, that your 7-year-old is free to run. Like, the roaming distance for a child of that age here is unheard of to any of them. They were just blown away. And Cromwell in particular, Central Otago at large, but Cromwell is different to the majority. And the one thing I came away from that thinking about the most was that the greenways here are so significant. That's what I really liked about Cromwell when I moved here, bringing kids up. And we underestimate that sometimes, and we're watching these developments grow and be a little bit out of our hands. And I think it's time that we really focused on that. But sticking to what made us a great place years ago is actually the same thing more so. You know, taking your kids to school on a scooter or a bike when petrol's $4 a litre makes sense to do that. So we need to actually be quite strong here in that development plan and master planning and resource consenting and all of those things, fast track, pushing back that's really important to our community and to keep that. Because it's significant. It makes Cromwell a really great, easy place to live. And I think we need to hold on to that as we do grow bigger, and access to everything is important. So yeah, it was really cool to see that play doesn't just mean a playground. There is so much stuff, but we're doing a pretty good job here so far. They were very enthusiastic group. Punctuating that, March 18th and 26th, the Dunstan Zones and Central Otago Zones athletics, excuse me, were held at Monu Park in Alex, and showcased again park teams' excellent work on an immaculate grass venue, is what I've been told repeatedly. However, pertinent to note that the Wanaka and Queenstown schools all said it would be great if we could do this in Cromwell and save ourselves an extra hour's driving. So we build something here. March 31st, a week later, we were over there for the chop bike competition. Again, same participants from all over Central and Queenstown Lakes. It's organised chaos on behalf of School Central, but awesome to see so many of our kids on bikes and out there just being kids. It's cool. Council meeting on March 25th, Tony told you all the good stuff, but basically we endorsed all of the CCB decisions that went up to the table. So the golf club will be bigger and better. Roxborough following our lead on their entertainment centre rebuild, learning some lessons from the pathway trodden from the Memorial Hall, no doubt, and naming it when the time comes. And annual plan being approved with no significant departure means no consultation needed. But our community board priorities were talked about for the LTP, and we're shooting for the moon, but realistically, I think, yeah. It's good. It's good to be ambitious. I think we're mindful. It's supported, and it was really good to see how aligned it was with the other regions. Maybe not quite so, like we were a little bit up there, but all the same kind of priorities and the same thing. So that was awful, and that's about it for now.
Second for the reports, please. Thanks, Sarah. All in favour? Just as we come to the end of those reports, just to take note of the tragic loss of a young man in our community who appears to have drowned in Lake Dunstan, trying to get home from being out drunk. It's a reminder to us all to look after your friends when you're out, and how important it is to make sure that everybody gets home safe. But thoughts are with his family and friends at this tragic time.
And all of the search and rescue and emergency services that work and those died for.
That takes us to the governance report on page 168. Anything of note in there, team? I did note that the last updates on some of the items have got them going to council the 25th of March, and they've now been like from Memorial Hall, submissions closed, recommendation, and that one of the ones before. From a Racecourse Reserve event in council on the 25th of March has been approved, and the Cromwell Golf Club, I think Golf Club's approved, has been approved on 25th of March as well. A couple of week updates. Anything else, Jane?
That's the thing, I'm forest report.
Okay.
You know more about that?
Yeah, they're all time strategy, yes, yeah. So let's call this to take note of that. So that takes us back to page 168 for the recommendation that those reports be received. Thanks, Sarah, thanks, Wally, in favour. Voted next meeting is the 5th of May, can I get that right? It's Tuesday the 5th of May. And now I'm moving the resolution to exclude public. The next parts of the proceedings. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Rebecca. All in favour. Let's take a 5-minute break. Coffee. Coffee, go to the loo. Where's the cake? It's time.
Yeah.
Is it on? It's been waiting. Because it was supposed to